Welcome to your community. This is your hometown. This is Walton Entertainment. This is where you can hear from the community and those making a difference. We explore topics, local festivals, arts and entertainment, and local news. For this program and much more, visit us online at yourlocalstream.com. That's yourlocalstream.com.
Hi and welcome to Monroe Walton Center for the Arts and Merry Christmas. Our Christmas shop is open. We will be open through December 24th. We usually stay open about half a day, maybe 12 or 1 o'clock on Christmas Eve. So feel free to come on in. We're open 7 days a week. We have 70, 80, close to 80 local artists in our shop. And then we've got our Christmas market set up with 30 artists, 32 artists with individual little boutiques of their own materials. So come in and support local artists. Nothing here is made in China. It's all locally made, maybe by somebody you know, certainly by somebody who lives very close by. I would say 80% of our artists live here in Walton County. We do have a scattered few that it might be in Watkinsville or Winder or close by Madison, Watkinsville and Athens, but most of our artists are right here in Walton County. So please do come and support local artists. You're supporting them directly. The money is going into their pockets, and it's staying here in our county, and it just is just such a blessing to them to know that something connected with you to spend your hard-earned money on. Everything in our Christmas shop is very affordable. I would say 95% of the items here in the shop is under $30. Probably 50% is under $15 or $20. So very, very affordable. You'll find something beautiful for anyone on your list. We even have toys for youngsters, anything that you would want. We, of course, are continuing to have our classes and events going on. We have on November 11th, we'll have our Saturday soiree and barbecue fundraiser. We're doing yet another barbecue fundraiser for our pottery studio. They need some new kiln shelves. We have a kiln that needs repairing again. Our kilns are running just about 24 hours a day, and I mean that almost literally. So they get a lot of wear and tear, and it takes lots of repairs and parts to keep them up and going. So that's November 11th. We'll have a pottery project that day, maybe some other things going on, but that will be a fun day for the whole family. Thursdays, all the way now through Christmas Eve, except of course Thanksgiving, will be open until 8 p.m. So please come by and browse and shop and see what we have here. We have some Christmas ornament making workshops coming up, some special painting workshops coming up, some workshops for your kids during Thanksgiving break. So if you go to our website, monroewaltonarts.org, or come in here and pick up one of our class lists, you'll see everything that you need to know. So Merry Christmas, and we'll see you soon.
So I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Pinnacle Bank and Northside Hospital Cancer Institute. I'd like to ask if Dee Cook with Pinnacle Bank could please come forward. Dee is the South Market Executive and Senior Vice President with Pinnacle Bank, and she'll make a few remarks.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you to Grace Monroe, and thank you to the Walton Chamber and Terry Smiley for allowing Pinnacle Bank to sponsor the event today. I'm a resident of Walton County, and recently was able to join Pinnacle Bank earlier this year as their market executive for our South Market. That includes our 2 Monroe branches, Covington and Conyers. Lee Garrett was promoted to our South Region President, and I'm very fortunate to be able to be part of this team. When you come to one of our branches, you'll come in and you'll find a team that's full of heart, full of care and curiosity, and we all want to help you and our community grow and prosper. We are very fortunate to be part of a wonderful county, and it's where we all call home. So take a look around the room and realize that we are Walton County, and we should all be very proud of what we have here. Several of my team members are here today, and I want to just say thank you to all of them for everything that they do to help you as a community and business owners and individuals. Please stop by and see one of our team members, and they'll be glad to help you with any stage of your life and your banking needs, from handling your checking account to investments, to loans, to home equity lines of credit, to building your primary residence. Anything that you need, we would love to help you. And just stop by and see our team. We genuinely care and would love to know more about you and your business. Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Dean. We are excited to have Dr. Melissa Furman of Your Career Potential back with us again this year. Let's give her a big Walton County welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so I have 2 waters up here. I'm recovering from a cold. So if I start to have a coughing fit, I'm gonna do this. Excuse me. It's gonna sound like I'm dying, but I promise you I'm okay. Okay, so I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about leading for today and tomorrow, but before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about me. And you're also going to find me doing this a lot, because that's how we're changing my slides today. Okay, so fun social media day. So I'm going to be talking to you about leading for today and tomorrow, and I'm going to be telling you so much information. You're going to feel like I'm just hosing you down with a fire hose. So what I want you to do is I want you to just sit back and just soak it in. And at the end, I promise you, there's a QR code where you can take a picture, and there's a handout that gives you all of the content that's shared during the session today. All right, so as leaders, all of you in this room, whether you're a leader formally or not, we need you to serve in a leadership capacity, because this is what's needed to help us navigate this future landscape. And so as leaders, you need to be sitting there thinking about the future. How often would you say you're sitting around thinking about the future? A little? Some? A lot? Some? Well, if you're only thinking a little or some, I'm going to encourage you to start thinking about the future a lot more. And more specifically, as you're thinking about the future, so when you're thinking about the future, I want you to be thinking about the future of work. I want you to be thinking about the work that you do, and I want you to be thinking about how the work that you do, how it's going to look different in the future, okay? I also want you to be thinking about the future workforce, because we have the most diverse workforce we've ever had in America. And as a result, you need to be thinking about how the future workforce is going to look so different than any workforce we've ever had in the past. And then lastly, I want you to be thinking about the future workplace. Because some of you may have already experienced this, but if you haven't, it's coming. The workplace is going to look so different moving forward as compared to anything we've seen in the past. And so for today, I want you to take one step forward and think about looking in the mirror and think about you as a leader in this future. Are you ready? Do you have the skills and knowledge and experience? Do you have the grit and resiliency to be able to navigate this future workforce and workplace? And so let's first start off. Let's just first take a pulse to make sure we're all on the same page to understand that we know what's going on, okay? So taking a pulse, we know that the workforce is aging, right? 33% of our workforce right now is comprised of what we call baby boomers. Folks between the ages of roughly 58 and 72. They are 33% of our workforce. And when I started my research 12 years ago, they were only supposed to be roughly 12% of our workforce. But they're not. They're 33%. They're still here. We're not sure when they are retiring, but when they do retire, by the way, if you have a calendar countdown of how many days until your boomer boss retires, you need to just take the calendar down. Because we honestly don't know. I thought for sure when COVID hit, this was it. I was like, get ready. It's coming. They're going to all be like, screw Zoom. I'm not doing Zoom. I'm out of here. So it did drop down to 31%, but it's back up to 33%. Okay, so we don't know when they're going to retire, but when they do, you're going to feel this massive leadership gap. But also, more importantly, these folks add a lot of value to your organizations. But they're also creating some unique challenges, let's say something like seniority. You have these folks who've committed their entire adulthood to working for your organization, and they're sitting there saying, well, you know, when I started 25 years ago, I only got $7.50 an hour, which was actually pretty darn good 25 years ago. And now you're bringing him in at $23 an hour? Oh, I had to work here 10 years before I got 2 weeks vacation, and now you're giving them 5 weeks vacation? And so it's interesting that they add a lot of value to the workplace, but it's also creating some unique challenges, okay? We also know that the younger generation, specifically Gen Z, these are folks between the ages of 12 and 26, these are your high school and college students, they think very, very differently. They see the world very differently. And even when you're thinking about the workplace and jobs and careers, this generation, the careers that we're exposing them to right now in high school and middle school, they're not even going to exist by the time they graduate college. And they're also growing up in their communities saying, I want to leave this community. And I think every generation kind of had that same mindset, but they're serious about it. They're packing up their bags. They're leaving. They don't want to take over the family business. They don't want to take over the family farm. They don't want to follow their parents and their career paths. They want to pave their own paths, and many of them are packing up, and they're heading out. We also know, which by the way, take a look at this screen right here and find the match that best represents you. Okay? We know if you work with human beings, number one, you're a leader, and number two, you're probably having to manage or lead some form of burnout, both within yourselves and with the people that you are leading. Right now, if you're a human being with a heartbeat, you're probably exhibiting some heightened levels of burnout. Because burnout is a legit psychological condition. It's defined as prolonged exposure to psychological stress. Well, who in this room has not had prolonged exposure to psychological stress, right? And if you're kind of like moving towards the left-hand side, get ready. We're going into an election year, folks. Watch how fast you start moving to the right, okay? And so many of you, if you're sitting at your desk and I were to walk by your office, this is what I see. And if I go, you fall into a pile of ashes. So are you ready to lead yourself through this burnout? Are you ready to lead your employees, your customers, your clients, your constituents through being burned out? Okay? We also know that business is moving at a rapid pace. Regardless of what industry you're in, whether it's education, healthcare, banking, whatever it is, government, it's all a business. And it's moving at an extremely rapid pace. Now, when I was doing this talk 6 months ago, I could stand up here with confidence and I could say to y'all, hey, we have seen more change in the last 18 months than we have seen throughout the entire industrial revolution in America. Well, guess what? I pulled the data last Monday, and I can stand up here with confidence saying to you, we have seen more change in business in the last 6 to 8 weeks than we have seen throughout the entire industrial revolution thanks to AI. And there's one thing we know about the future, is that change is constant, and it's going to keep getting faster. Are you ready to manage change? And so what I tell people is, knowing this landscape that we're in, knowing that things keep changing, knowing that the generations see the world very differently, knowing that expectations are different, I'm telling leaders that you can no longer just simply tweak your organization and tweak it and tweak it and tweak it and hope that it's relevant. You gotta burn the house down. You gotta build a new one from the ground up. Now, when I used to do this talk, I used to talk about burning the house down, like don't put on a new roof, don't put in new windows, don't put in new landscape, just burn the freaking house down, like burn it down. And there was a woman who said she was offended by that. Which, by the way, I didn't tell you in my opening, I'm from New Jersey. Okay, so you're the one person in the room who's not going to be offended by anything that I say. But I actually refer to myself as a Yankee Belle because I live in Augusta, Georgia, and I have lived in Augusta, Georgia longer than I've lived in New Jersey. And in Augusta, they refer to me as the Yankee. Like, because there's not a whole lot of us there, and they're like, watch out, here she comes. She's loud, she's obnoxious, she occasionally curses. I know it's not ladylike, I know it's not professional, but I can't help it. Is it Jersey? I don't know. Maybe I'm just obnoxious. Who knows? Well, but I call myself a Yankee Belle because I like to think that the South has smoothed out my rough edges, right? So I say y'all. I drink sweet tea. My cursing is minimized, right? I mean, I'm getting there. Give me a chance. Okay, anyway, so back to this. You gotta burn the house down. And so the lady says, man, that's too Jersey for me. I'm like, all right. And then she also says, I'm also into historic preservation, and I don't appreciate you telling us to burn old houses down. So I said, okay, touche. So I came up with a different example. And this is what we're gonna do. So I'm married to a car guy. So this is where the car example came from. And this is a 1950s truck, okay? I want you to think about your organizations as this 1950s truck. And some of your organizations are actually older than this 1950s truck, but it's a good metaphor because many of your organizations are an icon in your community. People know who you are, they smile when they see your logo, you've been through all kinds of wars and you're still standing strong. I mean, if you think about this truck, people put it in parades, people want to drive it away from weddings, they take holiday pictures with it. This is your organizations here in this community. So this is a good example. Okay? And so here is the dashboard of a 1950s truck. So I go to my husband and I was like, hey babe, can I cut up the dashboard of a 1950s truck? Because if I can't use this example. And he was like, yes, but don't you ever think about cutting up the dash of a 1950s truck? I said, touche, I'm not going to do it. So we're going to move with this example. Okay? And so I want you to think about this truck as your organization. And I want you to think about the evolution of your organization and think back to like the 1980s. So in the 1980s, you're driving around this 1950s truck and people, customers, clients, constituents, employees, whatever, they said, you know what, we want a tape deck in this 1950s truck. So what did you do? You cut into the dash, you put in the cassette player. Good, we're relevant, we got it, we served their needs. Then go to the 1990s. And people wanted to replace that cassette player with a CD player, right? And looking around the room, I know there's some of you in this room old enough to remember the portable CD players. Do you remember we had to hold them? And then you hit a bump. What happened when you hit a bump? Right back to the beginning of the song. Hashtag first world problem, right? So we had the CD player. What did we have our portable CD players plugged into? Do y'all remember? Cigarette lighters. And the younger people in the room were like, what? Yeah, we had cigarette lighters in our vehicles, right? And so here, we replaced the cassette player with a CD player. And do y'all remember we had the removable face on the CD player? And we did that because we were worried about people stealing our CD players. Here in Walton County, were people stealing CD players? Because in New Jersey, they just stole the whole freaking car. They didn't bother with the CD player, they just stole the whole car, right? But you replaced the cassette player with the CD player. You made that minor tweak, but you were still the same truck. Same engine, same wheels, same brakes, same transmission, and you just made a tweak. You're good. You're relevant. Okay? Let's go to the 2000s, early 2000s. We wanted GPS, so what did we do? We bought a Garmin, licked the suction cup, put it on the dashboard, plugged that into the CD player or the cassette player or the cigarette lighter, right? And you had your Garmin. You were relevant. Still the same truck though. It was just an addition that you added on. Okay? And then we hit the mid-2000s. Think about your organizations in the mid-2000s. Things got a little clunky. Like you had the GPS falling off because it was dry rotting on the dashboard. You got all these wires, the removable face is like falling off because you take it off so much. And so maybe you did a big overhaul. Maybe you redid your dashboard, kind of like this picture here. But you still have the same truck. So in your organizations, maybe this is when you went paperless. Maybe some of you still trying to go paperless? Okay. Maybe this is when you launched a new website, or you like dipped your toe in a little bit of social media, or you implemented a new HR information system, or a patient portal, or something like that. It was disruptive, but you were still the same truck. Same engine, same transmission, same wheels, the whole nine. Okay? Now, here we are in 2023, and I want you to take a look at this picture. Does anybody know what this is? This is the new 2023 Ford Lightning. It's the future of, it's the electric vehicle. Now, some of you can sit here and say, is that really the future? We don't have the infrastructure. I'm not sure if we're going that way. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If Ford Motor Company has taken their chips and pushed them forward into creating a mass-produced electric vehicle, you know that they're onto something. Okay? This is going to be some way, shape, or form part of our future. And so I go to my husband, my car guy husband, and I was like, hey babe, can we take this 1950s truck and convert it to electric? Now, I need to tell you, my husband's a mechanical engineer who designs electric and hybrid vehicles for a living. Now, they're golf cars, but, and they're cars, not carts in my household, whatever. And he says to me, no, you can't. And I was like, are you sure? He's like, babe, no. And I'm like, are you sure? You just can't like take the engine out, put the batteries in, and he's like, no. Because does anybody know what's actually under the hood of an electric vehicle? Nothing. It's a trunk. Do you know how an electric vehicle is powered? You have 4 individual motors that drive each individual wheel. You don't have like an engine. It's a completely different design. So no, you can't just take that gas vehicle, 1950s truck, and make it electric. Now, 2 days after Christmas last year, Jay Leno posted a picture on social media where he took a 1968 truck and converted it to electric. My LinkedIn was blowing up. People were like, you need to use a different example. And I went to my husband and I was like, babe, you failed me. He says, babe, no. He says, first of all, you need the amount of money that Jay Leno has to be able to do that. And he's like, and second, it's all a facade. It's actually an electric vehicle that they customized to be able to fit the paneling of the gas vehicle to make it look like a gas vehicle. And he says, so it's all a facade. And I love that he said that, because I want you to think about your organizations. Now, I'm not telling you to take your 1950 truck organization and drive it to the junkyard. No, no, no. Matter of fact, I want you to put it on a pedestal in your lobbies to honor the legacy, the resiliency that it has, all the great things that it has done. But while you're doing that over here, start building your electric vehicle. And if you need to find a way to customize it, to still make it look like the 1950s truck, okay. But it's not the future. And so my question to you is, are your organizations and your leadership skills relevant for the future landscape that you're going to be navigating? Is it relevant? Burn the house down. Or don't burn it down, preserve it, get the plaque put on it, and then over here, start building a new, more relevant house, okay? I want you to ask yourself, at your organizations, are your infrastructures, policies, which most policies exist because one person did something wrong 10 years ago and it's still everybody, it applies to everybody. Your recruiting practices, your management styles, your leadership approach, your marketing approaches. Is it all based on old rules and systems? Or are you thinking forward and thinking about the future and how you can be relevant? And so people say to me, okay, you got me. Okay, so what do we need to do? This is what you need to do. You need to start thinking about building and leading your organizations on 4 main pillars. And the first pillar being connection. Your employees, clients, customers, constituents need to know that you care about them. and not care about them the way you want to be cared about. Care about them the way they want to be cared about. And don't sit around a room or a boardroom table thinking you know what people want. Okay? Second pillar is we statistically do not have enough human beings in America to serve our workforce needs. Even if we retrain the 2.9% that are unemployed, we still statistically do not have enough human beings to serve our workforce needs. This is why immigration is actually a very important topic in America, yet our politicians aren't talking about it in this light. And so what do you got to do? You are going to have to find ways to automate as much as possible. So because I do research and talks on workforce development, all of these media outlets are reaching out to me and they're like, yes, hello, Dr. Furman, can you please give us a quote as to what you think the impact's going to be of AI on our workforce? You want to know what I say to them? Thank goodness for AI. Because AI is going to buy us some time to figure out how we're going to be able to navigate our workforce needs. Now, if you look at, in the world, there's this list, this ranking of automated workforces. In America, we are the lower 50% of having an automated workforce. There's a lot more we could be doing in America to automate the things that we do day in and day out. Okay? And so then the third piece, the third pillar, is for the human beings we do have working for us. We have to pay them more money. The time has come. It was the late 80s, early 90s that we had this mindset of get it done, get it done, get it done. Do more with less, do more with less, do more with less faster. We Six Sigma'd everything. We found ways to remove waste. Managers were no longer just managers. They were managers and individual contributors. We eliminated positions but never filled them back in. And the workforce says, we are drawing the line in the sand. We are tapping out. We are throwing in the towel. No more. We're not doing it. And so we have to start thinking about how to pay our people more money. Now, when I say to you as leaders, we need to pay our people more money, what do you say to me? Well, Melissa, we don't have more money. How are we going to pay them? Our margins are so thin. What are we going to do? And by the way, so I have a master's degree in professional counseling. This is why I'm so people-oriented. I'm a licensed mental health counselor. But I also have a doctorate of business. So I care about people, and I care about the bottom line of business. And so I tell them, you need to maximize the success of your businesses through your people. And the way that we do this is you have two options. You can either increase your revenue streams, it's a conversation for another talk, or you're going to have to lower your transactional cost of doing business. How can you make it less expensive for you to do business to free up money to pay your people more money? If you're not following the UAW strike, you need to be. Because it is going to be a massive disruption in America. Regardless of what the outcome is, it's going to be a massive disruption in America, and it's about time. Okay? And then the fourth pillar is that you better get ready. You better get ready for the massive demographic shifts we're going to have here in America, because our workforce is going to become more and more diverse. By 2025, the Caucasian population in America will become the minority population. 2025. When you look at the growth of Hispanic American, African American, Asian American, Indian American, all of these hyphenated ethnic groups, when you have that census that comes out, that little box that says Caucasian, that's going to become the minority. And you need to be thinking about our workforce, right? So we finally, 50% of our workforce is comprised of women. Yeah, buddy, right? 50% of our middle-level management positions are now held by women. Yeah, buddy. We're still only 1 to 3% of senior level. We're working on it. There's a whole bunch of reasons. Different conversation for a different day. But our workplace environment here in America was designed by men. It is not right or wrong, better or worse, and quite honestly, their design has built this glorious country that we're in. But now that we have all of these diverse people coming into our workplaces, and I'll even tell you, in America, it's primarily white men who designed our workplace environments. So now that we have all this diversity, people are showing up into the workplace and they're like, I don't know if I fit here. And so as a leader, are you ready to create and organization that is inclusive of all different kinds of perspectives. Let me give you a quick example. By the way, any HR people in here? Okay, good. No one's going to throw their shit at me. First thing you can do to lower your transaction cost of business, you ready? Number one thing you can do is get rid of performance reviews. No reaction, huh? Get rid of performance reviews. They are a waste of time and money. And they are not relevant, and why do you do them in the first place? People say, well, it's for us to give feedback. Really? Because the younger generations take pictures of their food, their sneakers, whatever, they put it on social media, and within 30 seconds they have 300 pieces of feedback. But when they show up in your workplace, they only get it once, maybe twice a year. And then they say to me, well, how do we know who to give raises to? Well, you want to talk about something that's broken here in America? Look at our compensation structure. Like, okay, you can only give so many 5s, so many 4s, anything below a 3 is on a performance review, a 4 gets 2.1%, a 5 gets 2.25%. Like, it's so complicated. There's much more efficient ways that we can think about compensation. And then I even hear, well, how do we fire people? In theory, you should be firing less than 3% of your employees. Unless you're in food and beverage, different story. And even then, that's up to 8%. But still, is there not a more cost-effective and efficient way for us to be firing people other than making everybody do performance reviews, which is a time and energy suck and money suck, right? Where was I going with this? Oh, the diversity. And that was your little pointer. If you have teamwork on your performance reviews, you have both gender and culture bias built within your organization. When you say teamwork to a man, they often think sports, they think winning. You say teamwork to a woman, we often think collaboration. When you say teamwork to a Hispanic American, they think something very, very different than an Asian American, very, very different than an African American. They have different perspectives and paradigms of teamwork. And so, if you have a performance review and you are scoring someone on teamwork, get ready. These younger generations are going to show up and they're going to challenge you and they're going to say, really? First of all, there's bias in the person who's rating me. Second of all, there's gender and culture bias and you're going to tie this to my compensation? They may not only sue you, they're going to cancel you. They're going to get on social media and they're going to drag you through the mud and it can completely destroy your business. Are you ready for this? You ready to lead this? And now we're talking about diversity. We're also going to talk about our generations. We have 5 generations present in our workforce. This has never happened in America, ever. We've had maximum 3, never 5. And these 5 generations, and I'm just going to put these up here. Go ahead and put the next one and the next one. We don't have time to go through them. But man, oh man, do they see the world differently. The older generations, they aspire for job security, Gen X, which, by the way, how many of you are between the ages of 43 and 58? Okay, we're the problem. We are the hardest generation to work with and work for. We are workaholics. We work until the work gets done. And we have a hard time understanding why everybody else is not working as hard as we are. And when we walk out to the parking lot at night, we're pissed. Because our car's the only one there. And when we come in the morning and we're the first one there, we're still pissed. Right? We have a sense of urgency to ourselves. We want the job done our way because our way is the best way because we have figured out how to get the most amount of shit done in the shortest period of time. We aspire for job security. Organizations call me up and y'all, they throw money at me. They're just like throwing money at me. They're like, Melissa, can you please come in and fix these damn millennials? We don't know how to hire them. We don't know how to fire them, motivate them, manage them, train them, get them to get dressed to come to work. Can you please help us? Do you want to know where I spend all my time? 43 to 58. Because good employees don't leave bad organizations, they leave bad what? Now, Gen X, I'm one of them. I'm not saying we're bad at what we do. I'm not saying we're bad managers or leaders. What I'm saying is our paradigm, our approach to how we lead and manage is not relevant today and is very authoritarian, is very directive, and is not inclusive of the younger generations. Now, some of you are looking at me like, so what are you saying, Melissa? We need to like coddle them, we need to like cater to them. I said, no. You just need to be inclusive of them. Because you may be the problem, but you're also the solution. We can't do it without you. We need your drive and discipline and efficiency. But we also need their innovation, ambition, and disruption. And it's putting those two together, that's the secret sauce of how we're going to navigate this future landscape. So rather than give them the Heisman, every time they come up to us like, hey, why do I have to come to work on time? Why do I have to wear this uniform? Why is the network set up the way that it is? Rather than, because when you do this to them, what do? Can anybody do deuces? I can't do it with the mic. There we go. Deuces. They peace out because they feel like you're disrespecting them. There's three things missing in workplaces right now: disrespect, trust, and accountability. These are my 3 new talks for 2024 because everybody needs it. This is what's creating challenges across diverse groups, whether it's age, gender, ethnicity, whatever it is. It's disrespect and trust, right? So they aspire for job security, and then you have the next generation. Who in here is between 27 and 42? Best generation in the workforce right now. Yeah, buddy. Best generation in the workforce right now. Because let me tell you something. Many of you have been brainwashed via social media to believe that millennials are lazy, entitled, sensitive, trophy kids, which, by the way, I'm going to pause here because I'm going to ask you, who was giving them the trophies? It was their boomer parents who were well-intended, and they were trying to be inclusive and not let people feel left out, right? There is no empirical evidence to support that this thing called millennials, this is a popular press phenomenon. There is no empirical evidence to support that this exists. Every generation has had bad press. Baby boomers, 1970, watch out, they're a bunch of hippies. Gen X, 1990, watch out, they're a bunch of workaholics. And what we've been hearing for the last 15 years is watch out for these damn millennials, and we are brainwashed to believe it because of social media. Now, some of you are sitting here going, no, Melissa, nope. Come work with me. Come hang out with me for a day. I can show you they're lazy. I can show you they're entitled. I can show you they're sensitive. And I'm going to say, you know what, you're right. But what you're observing has nothing to do with what year they were born. It has to do with their professional and emotional maturity. Boomers matured at 18, 19, 20. They were getting married, buying homes, buying cars, the whole nine. Gen X, we didn't mature to our mid-20s. And let's be honest, gentlemen in the room, you didn't mature to your late 20s. I'm just kidding. There's no data to support that. That is Melissa Furman's opinion, okay? The millennials aren't maturing until their early 30s. But then you have Gen Z showing up, that they care a whole lot. This is 12 to 26. They care a whole lot about security and stability. They grew up with active shooter drills. They grew up with their parents telling them they need to start budgeting in middle school, right? They care a whole lot about that. They also care a whole lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, equality, social responsibility, because you know why? These kids were raised in the anti-bullying campaigns. They did role-playing on how do you confront a bully. And they were told on the recess field, if you see somebody being mistreated, you see something, you go say something. So guess what? They're going to show up in your workplace environments, and when they see or hear something they don't like, they're going to be in HR's office. And they're going to demand that you do something about it, and if you don't, they will cancel you. We already know that the 5 generations also communicate very differently, and they also make decisions very differently. The baby boomers love meetings. They'll have a meeting to plan a meeting, and then they'll have another meeting. Gen X will do whatever it takes to get shit done. Whether that's email, phone, which by the way, we have the most robust email system of anybody in the world, Gen X. We can pull up any email from like 10 years ago and say, you said this on this date. But this is how we roll, Gen X. We send an email, we wait 2 minutes. We don't hear anything back, so now we're mad. So we pick up the phone, and I'm like, why are you calling them? They're not gonna answer their phone. You're like, you're right, I gotta text them. They text, did you get my email? They don't hear back. So then they go up and find them. They get up face to face, and they're like, hey. And they take out their earbuds, And they're like, did you get my email? I know you, I mean, your phone's right there. I called you, I texted you, I mean, what are you doing? And they're like, okay, hold on, when did you send it? I sent it 5 minutes ago. Okay, all right, you said you need this ASAP, so I will start working on that tomorrow when I'm done with this project. Gen X's arms are folded, and they're like, ASAP means now. So you know what? Never mind, I'll just go do it myself. Right? Do you see why you may be hard to work for? Gen X is awesome at telling people what to do, but they are horrible about asking for help. Okay? Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. This is what you need to be ready for. When the older generations leave, you're going to have a massive knowledge gap. When the boomers finally leave, you're going to have a massive leadership gap. And the 43 to 58-year-olds, by the way, Gen X, we were 23% of the workforce last year, we're 21% this year, and we're going to be 18% next year. Where are we going? Many of us are trying to figure out how to retire in our early 50s because we are burned out. And if we're not retiring, we're starting our own job, our own companies, and we're doing entrepreneurship. Because we're like, if I'm gonna work 50, 60, 70 hours a week, I might as well work for myself. And so your organizations for real are going to have a massive leadership gap. So what are you and your organizations doing to prepare the next generation, the millennials? What are you doing to prepare them for leadership roles? Because many of them are going to be thrusted into leadership within 1 to 3 years of experience. Every single one of you in your onboarding training programs, you should be teaching leadership skills. Because on any given day, they may need to be the next leader of your organization. Now, if you have a leadership program that you're like, yeah, we identify high potentials in year 1, they're an emerging leaders program in year 3, you're lucky if you have them for a year. So you have to completely change your paradigm on leadership training, and man, oh man, you better refresh your leadership programs, because it better include the 10 things that I'm ending with today. They're all like 10, we only have 10 minutes left. I go through it quickly. Most leadership programs are not relevant. It is time to refresh and make sure you are training your young people on the skills and experiences they need to be able to lead into the future. And you better get ready, the millennials are massive disruptors. They're going to question everything you do. Why do we work 40 hours a week? Why do we have 8-hour work shifts? Why do we have to work 5 days a week? Why? And if they hear because I said so, or that's the way we've always done it, they're going to peace out. And then Gen Z, they are clashing with the millennials, and we also know that they're having a hard time with adulting. They're coming into adulthood very confident because their Gen X parents are treating them like adults as children, and they're coming in, give them a problem, put them in a room, take away their technology, and they fall apart. We're seeing that they're not having the resiliency and grit that we need. So if I didn't just give you pit stains, I don't know what will. This is the landscape we're navigating. So I'm going to close out here with these top 10. Now I need to warn you, as if you're looking at your watch, I spend a whole lot of time on 1 and 2 within the 10 minutes, and then I fly through 3 through 7. So you ready? Okay. Number 1, you have to have a positive growth mindset. That is the bottom of the pyramid. You have to leave here today saying, you know what? I don't like her. She's obnoxious, but she's onto something. She's onto something, and I need to embrace this, and I need to start thinking about things differently. Because if you don't have this mindset, I can't do anything with you, okay? And I'm going to keep going through. The second thing you need is self-awareness. You cannot learn how to lead others until you learn how to lead yourself. So you need to figure out, who are you, what do you like, what motivates you. You also need to figure out, go to the next one, what is your emotional intelligence like? Because emotional intelligence is the #1 predictor for leadership success moving forward. If you do not have emotional intelligence built into your leadership training, you are not relevant. Research is saying this is the #1 thing. So let me tell you what this is about. So the first bucket is you need to know your ability to be able to identify your emotions. Are you aware of how you feel? But it goes one step further. Are you able to pick up on other people's emotions? Are you aware of other people? So when you have somebody crying in front of you, do you see that they're crying and you know to stop talking, right? But then there's a second bucket. It doesn't stop there. It's how good are you at managing your emotions? But then also, can you manage the emotions of others? So when you have somebody in front of you, an employer, customer, client, who is just spiraling, falling apart in front of you, can you help them? When someone's crying in front of you, do you know how to console them? This is emotional intelligence. And then the third bucket, do you know how to use emotions to navigate this thing called life? Make decisions, solve problems, manage your stress. This is what I'm talking about. Go to the next one. Next one. Go. One more. We're going through these quickly. This is an emotional intelligence assessment where what you see on the left-hand side is of results of a client that I work with. You can see it's all over the place. Assertiveness, empathy, impulse control, emotional expression, all over the place. And then the slides on your right, this was the results 9 months after working with him. Emotional intelligence 100% can be developed, and it doesn't even take that long to develop it. So this is something you need to be thinking about. How can you train and get your people to where they want to go? You also need to be aware of your unconscious biases. Now, some of you may have heard this activity before, or this exercise, and if you had, do not scream out the answer. If you do, I'm taking the shoe off and it's coming your way. And I played sports so I can reach you, okay? Father and son are in a car accident. Both are injured, both have to be sent to the hospital. The son's injuries are so bad that he's sent to the operating room for surgery. The nurses are prepping him, the surgeon walks in and says, "Oh my gosh, I cannot operate on this patient because this patient's my son." How is this possible? Father, son, same accident, same hospital, son needs surgery. Next slide. Surgeon's the mom. Now, I do this activity with huge audiences, all women audiences, all men audiences, and I'll tell you, usually only about 10% of the people think the surgeon's the mom. What were some of the other things you think? Stepdad, or he has 2 dads, which I appreciate that progressive thinking, right? I hear, well, the dad's injuries weren't so bad. He can still do the surgery. And in rural Georgia, I hear, well, duh, it's the granddaddy. Am I saying it right? Somebody say it. Granddaddy, right? It's the mom. Now, this is unconscious bias. We all have it. It is human nature. We can't help it. I'll even give you a real life story. My dean walked into me a few years ago and he was like, "Hey Melissa, the College of Coastal Georgia down in Brunswick has a new president." I said, "Yeah, no, I heard the other one retired." Yeah. And he's like, "Hey, you do work down in Brunswick," because I work with FLETC down in Brunswick. And he says, "Hey, would you be willing to work with the spouse to help the spouse find a job in Brunswick?" And I said, "Sure, absolutely. What is she interested in?" And he says, "You mean what is he interested in?" The new college president was the wife, and the spouse was the husband. Y'all, I've published research on this. Like, take my doctorate away. But you have to understand, I've worked at multiple universities. I was at Emory, UGA, go Dogs, Johns Hopkins, and Augusta University. Everywhere I've ever worked, they had a male president. Less than 10% of business school deans are men. So when I think higher ed administrator, I think a man, because that's my paradigm. So you as a leader, you need to know what are your unconscious biases. I quickly learned 15 years ago that my number one unconscious bias was young women in childbearing age. Well, darn. And I'm a diehard feminist. But what if I told you I don't have kids by choice? Does that help you understand my lens a little bit? And so as a leader, I was like, oh, snap. I said something else, but we'll just say I say snap. I was like, oh, snap. I've never hired a young woman in childbearing age. Oh my gosh. So from there on out, anytime HR sent me resumes, I took the name off. I created a rubric to objectively score each candidate, and I made sure I had a committee anytime I had to hire somebody. Because now that this unconscious bias is now conscious, I work to make it not be a bias, and I put things in place to minimize it. You as a leader, as we are navigating this diverse workforce, you need to figure out what your biases may be. And then you got to learn about others. We all have a unique lens in how we see the world. And our lens is shaped by what happened to us during our childhood. And that lens then translates into how we behave as adults. So you, as a leader, it is your job to go learn about others to understand their lens rather than make assumptions, stereotype, and group people. Okay? We're going to go through these. Okay, 3 through 10 we're going through real quickly here. You ready? Number 3, as a leader, to be successful in the future, is you need to learn how to communicate better. You're going to have to communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with. You're going to have to learn how to communicate with compassion and transparency. And everybody hears messages differently, so you're going to have to get creative with that. Okay? Number 4, you're going to have to understand this thing called diversity. Okay? And it's not just diversity, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's diversity of having unique perspectives. Okay, great. It's equity, making sure that people have equal access, because you can have a very diverse organization, but if all that diversity within your organization doesn't have equal access to opportunities, you're not going to be successful. And then the last piece is just all those diverse people that work for you feel included. They feel like they belong there. Okay? Keep going. Keep going. As a leader moving forward, you're going to have to learn how to manage your burnout, and you're going to have to learn to manage the burnout of your employees. On the screen here are the top 5 things that lead to employee burnout. And I also, on the handout that you'll get at the end, provide some recommendations on what you can do to help navigate that. Number 6, you have to be a tech-savvy humanist. This is a Harvard Business Review term. You need to understand how technology is going to hurt, help, and impact your organization. Hurt, help, and impact your organization. And technology is only as good as the human beings who use it. So AI is only as good as the information that's being fed into the system. If you come up with some really cool technology in your workplace and you don't have your people using it, you wasted your money and time. This is why, as a leader, it's so important for you to understand the principles of change management and how you can get the buy-in of people. Okay? Number 7, you have to be socially responsible. The younger generation, Gen Z, the number one thing they're looking for when they're researching employers are your values. Could you know your values? How are you using social media to promote your values? How are you using your values to recruit and retain your employees? This is very, very relevant today, and you have to build trust with your people. There's a book out there called The Trusted Leader, The 8 Pillars of Trust. I highly recommend it, because it tells you it's not just about doing the right thing. You have to do a whole lot more. And I'm going to ask you, if I came into your workplace environment and I said, hey, do you trust your people? What would you say? And then I would say, do your people trust you? What would they say? Okay? Number 8, you have to be innovative. Number 9, you're going to have to develop advanced problem-solving and decision-making skills. In our MBA program at Augusta University, we got rid of analytics. We replaced it with executive decision-making and problem-solving, because problems are only going to get harder, and you're going to have to make decisions faster, and you got to be careful with data. Data can tell you any story you want it to tell. And now we all have the ability to collect all this data. You as a leader, you need to be able to look at the data and figure out what story it's telling you, and you need to figure out how to make decisions using that data. Okay? And so this is it. The future of leadership is no longer one person, hierarchy, or this top person figurehead. Leadership's now a team sport, but let's change that slide, because go dogs. Yeah, but I was in Alabama. I was afraid to say go dogs, because they're serious in Alabama, right? I mean, they poison each other's trees and stuff. And I was like, can I say go dogs? And so I had Auburn up there, but then I quickly realized Auburn is so busy hating Alabama and Alabama. So I was like, go dogs. Look at this picture up here. How many coaches do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see about 5 or 6, right? This is the future of leadership, folks. You need to start thinking about how you can build your team of leaders. It is too much for one person to carry. You got to start building your team, but those of you who watch Georgia football, what's this coach, on game day, what's this coach's job? Okay, so those of you who don't watch Georgia football, I want to be inclusive. This is head coach Kirby Smart. He's a very passionate coach, right? He's very animated. He's yelling, he's screaming, he's like out on the field. And what happens when Kirby Smart gets out on the field? They get a penalty, which ultimately hurts the team. So this is actually the strength coach. But on game day, his job is to pull Kirby back. And he knows on game day that's his job. What does Kirby do every time he gets pulled back? He kicks him, he slaps him, he yells at him, and what does that strength coach do every time? He comes back and pulls back. And so you may not be the head coach on your team, but you need to understand the role and the importance that you play on your leadership team. And for some of you, it may not be to pull back your leader, but for some of you, your role may be to push your leader forward. Because some leaders have analysis paralysis. Some of them are paralyzed. They don't want to take risks. And maybe your job is to respectfully nudge them forward to be relevant. All right? And so this is all I have for you today. I hope each and every one of you walks away with at least one or two nuggets when you're thinking about your organization, you're thinking about you as a leader in the future. And you can take a picture of the QR code. It does give you access to the handouts that give you all of this information and then some. You're welcome to call me, email me, text me, follow me on social media, do whatever you want to do, but I am a resource here for you and for Walton County. So thank you to the Chamber for having me today, and enjoy the rest of your day and lead on.
That was absolutely amazing, right? Yes, so good, so good. So, north side.
We will close with one last shot of Monroe Walton Center for the Arts, better known as the Art Guild, downtown Monroe. This is all handmade, all of this stuff in here. The lights, gingerbread, men, all of this. They have done a wonderful job on decorating. This is Paul Mullins with Walton Entertainment. Tonight, November the 2nd, is Light Up the Night in Monroe, and we'll start here at the Art Guild, and you can see they are very decorated here and over here to the side. Now we'll go downtown and let you see some of the decorations. And they've got the s'mores going again, so people are roasting their marshmallows.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
My lonely days are gone. That's why I'm